Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. ReadswithRosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educators spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, taking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. And rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out. Sala Falava and welcome to the ReadswithRosa podcast. As you all know, I was born and bred in the Efakasa Church, and so I'm always excited when I get the opportunity to highlight the work and advocacy of my fellow Efakasa family in their respective fields and communities. On today's show, we have a young reverend and his whaletua who are currently serving in Mangere, South Auckland, and Aotearoa. They are passionate about the youth and their church community, and as autism parents, they are helping to educate and lead the way in autism awareness through a Pasifika lens. It is my honor to welcome to the show Losusunga le whawhiangainga, Reverend Martin Malefaletua ya Toreka Mariota. Malora so for mawa malangi mama. Welcome.
Oh, that was good, Rosa. That was really good info. You're doing well.
Yeah, I saw you giggling when I said young, and I was like, should I have said old? I don't know. Middle aged? I don't know.
I'll take it.
We'll take it.
How are you both? Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, it's such an honor to share space with you. How are you?
Oh, deska. Watashi no namae wa maten desu.
Wow, sugena. Chotto mate, Nihongo shaberemasu ka? Nande? Why, how do you speak Japanese?
I watch a lot. Remember, I watch a lot of manga. I mean anime, and I read a lot of manga.
Okay, I should have said introduce yourself in Japanese. Oh, solid, very solid. Toreka, sis, how are you doing? It's lovely to see you.
Oh, lovely to meet you too, Rosa. Good. We're doing really good. Just excited to be here and just to have a nice telenoa. Just to, get to know each other and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it.
First, I'd like to ask my guests just to, give a brief introduction, perhaps shout out your people, your villages. I'm not sure who would like to go first, but either or.
Yeah, you're the first girl.
So start off. My name's Martin Wilson Mariota. Not a very common Samoan name. So I was born in Napier, but my mum's from Iva and my dad's from this really small village, Ili and Salegua and Kaliali.
Cool.
I did. I said I was born in Napier.
Hi, my name is Toreka Trisha Lily Whanu Mariota. Might as well just say the whole name.
Yep.
And I was actually born in West Auckland, but I left when I was about 2 and grew up in Wellington, pretty much. Puriroa, exact. Mum is basically, I'm a Savai'i girl through and through. Mum's from Maupo, dad's from Awala. We also have a piko, Mutawai, Safune, Sasinga, all of that pretty much. But those are the main couple of villages that, I'm quite connected to. Yeah.
That's cool. If you're from any of these villages, I hope you're tuned in. Your cousins, your auntie or your uncle. Okay, not calling you auntie and uncle, but your cousins are on the show. Support and spread the word. ReadswithRosa podcast. Okay, so thank you for your introduction. I like to always begin with the question about reading. For both of you, were you readers growing up? Yes or no?
I used to read a lot of manga. I read a lot of comic books. That's probably the extent of my reading. The only time I'd read like a big novel is if I had to, like in school. Yeah.
Probably similar to Martin. I grew up, I actually loved reading when I was a lot younger. I mean, my dad was like really strict on us. Literally would drop us off to the library after school because he thought that as long as we went to the library, we were doing schoolwork. And but I actually preferred to read like R.L. Stein, like a lot of the horrors when I was younger. That was the closest I'll get to watching a horror movie, because I can't watch horror movies at all, but I can read about it, and at least in my mind I can actually imagine what I think is happening and all the suspense thrillers, but I don't want to watch any of it because I can't.
What's R.L. Stone?
Oh, don't be a hater. I was just gonna say R.L. Stone. I hear you, sis. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. What
Does it have pictures in the books?
No.
It's like horror, like children's, like, mystery horror.
But if it's got no pictures, like, how do you keep your attention? Like, you will see all these words and you're like,
you imagine things,
exactly right. You imagine, you visualize. It's good. Visualize the story. See.
Man, how long have we been married? You read what is it called?
Did your younger selves ever see yourselves in the ministry?
Me, yes. So my grandfather was a faith ao in Fausanga, and when his wife, well, when my grandmother passed away, he came to live with me and my family in Napier. So we stayed in the same room. So I was only like, a little 5-year-old kid, and he pretty much kind of like raised me, and like I looked up to him, my grandfather, and sometimes he'd be given the opportunity to do the local, and I'd watch him like, man, I want to be like my grandfather. And when I was about 11, 12, he was in hospital. He was just pretty much passing away. And I'll never forget, I held his hand and I said, Papa, I promise I'm going to be a out just like you, And I know it seemed like a pretty kind of that kind of innocent child dream, but I held on to it for my whole life, and I never kind of let go of it.
Toreka, what about you?
Pretty much no. This wasn't. No, this was not the planned ideal pathway for me. However, everything about it, like the community service and all of that kind of stuff, that stuff that I've always loved to do growing up. So it's funny, it's like doing exactly what I wanted to do, but just in a different space, and it's just sort of navigated me towards like always around community work, always around kind of being with the people. I've always been a big believer around culture. I'm the oldest in the family, so I'm so masangi to just always looking out for, just family. So all of those kind of aspects, always like being the first to do something. Just my dad was a real big believer in, you're gonna lead the path of the family. So so it's always something that's resonated with me. And then coming into the ministry, I felt like it was just on a bigger scale, because you're now in the community, and everything always studied towards or wanted to, sort of was drawn to. It's pretty much the ministry. It's about So yes and no. I guess no, because I didn't expect myself to be a whaletua, but then yes, because it's always been a space of helping out people. That's always what I've wanted to do anyway. So yeah.
Good answer.
Great answer. Can I ask, I mean, if you don't want to answer this question, that's okay, but I was wondering how you two met, or did Martin pursue you? Toreka, I imagine he pursued you. I mean, did you two meet before Malua, or?
You must answer this.
Yeah, so this was at the end of my 3rd year. By that time you're allowed to go launga at different churches, and then I was invited to launga in Poriroa Church, because remember I was living in Napier, and so I went to go launga at Nove's church, Nove Veila'au in Poriroa. And I'll never forget the day, to be honest, Rosa. Like, I finished doing my launga and I was sitting behind the pulpit and I was really tired, And then, they were doing all their langas. And then all of a sudden, from the corner of my eye, I see this blue and red dress walk in, because everyone's wearing white. And this blue and red dress just walks in and catches my eye. And I turn around, and I kid you not, Rosa, like the light was shining through the window. And honestly, like, it was like an angel was like walking down the aisle, and I felt God speak to my heart. This is your wife. And I thought, oh, this is so random, eh? Like, it was such a powerful word, like, this is your wife. I mean, didn't hear it, but, in my heart, like, this is your wife. So I thought to myself, how am I ever going to talk to this stranger? Like, total stranger, never met her in my life. So we were sitting at the kongai, and I was trying to figure out a way to try and talk to her without it being awkward. So obviously she was one of the girls, serving the mea and stuff like that. And my sister was going to the Porirua church at the time, so her kids were there. And her son, he was quite young, he was in about like 9 or 10. He was at the kongai as well, and he ran outside. So I thought, oh, this is my chance. So I'm sitting there, imagine this, I'm sitting there in the front table next to Novi, and you got all the people of the church around, eating as well. And Toreka's kind of sitting with all the other girls serving the food. And I just go like, this is great, if she can come. And all the other girls are like, oh, me. And I'm like, no, that one. And then, so she walks in front of everyone, and everyone stops eating. Because I'm totally oblivious to what everyone else is doing. But I realized everyone just stopped eating, and they're watching Toreka walk up to me. And I said, oh, can you go outside? My nephew's just run outside the hall, just in case he runs on the road. If you can go outside and get him, mate. So my plan was, when I say goodbye to everyone, I was going to say thank you to her for looking after my nephew, right? See, that's the plan, right? And then the kongai was finished. I was, went around, shook everyone's hand, and I was looking for her, and I couldn't find her. And I was looking everywhere. It was really awkward because everyone's saying goodbye to me, and they're like, what is this guy doing? So long story short, I never saw her. And then the next few weeks, I went back to Samoa, and I never saw her again until I went on Bebo, right? Remember Bebo? Yeah. You remember Bebo? Kind of like Facebook and
yeah.
I went on Bebo and I looked for her, man. It took me ages, eh? I had to go through people that like lived in Porirua, and then finally I found her tagged in one of these photos. So I added her, and like, on Bebo, you can see when they were last active, like, last active 5 minutes ago. And every time I see like, whoa, she was active like 20 minutes ago, and she still hasn't accepted my. But anyway, long story short, she finally accepted, and then this was like almost a month and a half later, right? She finally accepted, and then I messaged her and I said, oh, I just want to say I want to thank you for looking after my nephew.
Bro, you're so dry. I mean, come on now.
But yeah, that's how it started. Yeah. So yes, I did perceive her.
What a beautiful story of how you met.
Never give up. All those young kids out there, never give up.
So Toreka, did you were you in Malua for the last year or for any of that time, or is really your ministry in terms of being a whaletua began once Martin graduated?
Yeah, so no, I didn't go into Malua. We met in his, I guess the first, the end of the third year, beginning of his fourth year. Got to know him then, and then we got married 2 years after that, 2 years after he graduated. So ministry for me, I would say, reflecting now being Gosingo in Mangere, I would say it started way back, my own personal journey, because I could probably say that it would have started back when I met Martin, but with everything that I'm going through right now, it actually comes back to when I was in Sunday school, when I was being a Sunday school teacher, maftantina, maftantina to my tai, like it actually started way back then. I think by meeting Martin, it was then about us growing as a couple, but then also just trying to find our own feet within the ministry. I think that's one thing that I got to sort of know about Martin, is that I said to him when we got to know each other, it's just like, we have to be true to who we are. Whether we go into whatever we do, whatever career path that we go to. And when we were talking about being in the Ngaluenga, because I knew my mum was like, she was freaking out literally when she found out that I was dating Martin, because I'm quite a very kind of independent person, and so And so anyway, when I was getting to know him and like we were talking with each other, I just said, I don't mind going into the Ngaluenga with you, but I think we need to be true to who we are as people. And I think as we journey towards God's ministry, it'll flow. And by being honest to who we are, I think good things will come from it, instead of trying to be conformed to trying to fit and be not who we're not meant to be, kind of thing. So yeah, I would say the ministry for me personally started a long time ago, but then the ministry as a couple started once we got to know each other, and then even more so when we got married.
I feel like when people talk about the ministry, automatically you think about the spiritual aspect. I was wondering, as a family, as a couple, now serving in Mangere, how do you even prepare emotionally and mentally, knowing that one day you are going to get that calling, or even just the waiting for that calling? Because I know we know that in Ifakasa there are sometimes people are not called, they're serving in their local, in their home churches for a very long time before they get a calling. For other people, they're like kosingu early on. How do you prepare emotionally and mentally for, I don't want to say the waiting game, but for when that calling comes to go to a village or a church?
Yeah, I think for me in Toreka, we kind of see calling into the Ngaluenga quite different to how a lot of people, because a lot of people see being called to a Ngaluenga is kosi nu'u, that's it. Whereas me and Toreka, we kind of see like the Ngaluenga, like it started, like once we were married, the Ngaluenga started, because our first calling is a calling as a husband and wife. That's our first calling. That's our first mission, is to make sure me and her are all good. And when our son was born, that he became part of our mission. That became part of our Ngaluenga. To me, that was now our next part of our calling, was to be parents. And for us, like, you really needed to be whamaongi with those callings first. So being called into the Ngaluenga, it starts in house. It starts within the family, because now being in Mangere Sifo, and being at an actual church, we realize how important it is for the ministry within the household. It's so important. It's like number one priority to get the household right first, to make sure me and Toreka as husband and wife, our relationship is good, our relationship with our son is good, because once that falls apart, it doesn't matter what you do in the Ngaluenga, it's just not going to work out. It's not going to work out. But the other thing in terms of preparation, like, I wouldn't really call the waiting game like the waiting game. Like, the waiting game was a blessing. Like, it was a true blessing. Like, I recommend to any a'oa'ama law that's just graduated, man, do a makawhale in the church, and ngalui in your church, ngalui in your pulenga, your makangaluenga. Because to me, that was the best experience of my life, was to serve under Reverend Nove and Benina Baila'au. They were such great mentors, awesome mentors. And just being makawhale in the church and serving, in the church as a makawhale, you get to understand the life of a makawhale. So once you become whewhi au kosi nu'u, you understand the financial pressures that the makawhales are going through. You understand their mindsets and everything. So having that 10, 12-year experience in Porirua, it's one of the best experiences of my life, best learning experiences of my life.
I was wondering about because was it 2022 that you moved to Ifakasa Mangere Sifo?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. So it's nearly a year, I think. How has it been? What are some important things that you've learned, so far in this journey, in this like next chapter of your Ngaluenga or ministry?
Personally, I'm really enjoying it. Seriously, before we got here, I was so nervous, like literally really nervous. I didn't know much about the church, but as we journeyed towards getting to know them and then preparing ourselves to come, I was sort of freaking myself out by like Googling on YouTube, and I was like thinking, oh my goodness, because it's daunting itself coming to Auckland, because Auckland is totally different, but then let alone to come to Mangere Sisifo. So it's like just trying to grasp onto the difference of the areas, because I mean Wellington's a little bit different to how Auckland does things, but it's actually been amazing. Like I've really, really enjoyed it, and it really surprises me that there's a lot of deja vu moments. So every time we have it, every day is different, but every time there's a situation, whether it's with the Mafutangatina or the Angasa or with the Ekalesia, it's like you have these little aspects of those moments. Like 5 years ago, I remember coming across this before, and I guess I'm always really grateful to God, like for the last 10 years of being, as they say, what field work, like in the waiting space, because it really helped us in our ngaluenga now, and we're still learning and we're still journeying. But one of the things is that you just got to really love it, and and just understand the people. I mean, it's about building relationships. The ngaluenga it's about, you've got obviously the whole spiritual and the faith-based aspect of it, but then also you've got building relationships with different people. So so far it's been really good. It's been really, really good. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think the other reason why it's really good is because, man, the people are awesome. We have a lot of, ngaka makua in the church. And for me in Toreka, we feel safe that they're there, because they keep us safe. You know what I mean? They give us really good advice. These are people that have been in the ngaluenga for years. So they carry a lot of wisdom, and we're really privileged that we're able to tap into that wisdom as well, and that experience. So it's been an awesome journey. Yeah. A lot of people keep saying to us, kalawhaia o kedua, kalavo, but now you se kali sia te le. But for us, like it's not really about that. It's just about the wisdom that's already in the church, and depending on that wisdom, and like it's just being able to be vulnerable with the church as well. Like I'm quite honest with all my vaivaingas, like for example with the language and things like that. I'm quite open with that, and I think the church appreciate that as well. So what about you? And your mafkakia?
You know what? Like Madam said, I actually feel comfortable when I actually see my tina matatoas in there, because I look at them because they've got such a really amazing tofa. And honestly, like the Spirit of God is really with you up there. Oh my gosh, when I first did it, I had all these like scenarios written down on paper, like one-liners am I going to say if someone disagrees, or if there's going to be a bit of a conflict, and but sometimes the words or the moments are really fast, and so it's like, my gosh, just try and listen and pick up things, but they're very what do you call it? They're really good to you. Like I think they see their children in us as well. And I'm sure that's what they see.
Yeah, I want to talk about social media while we're on this, because I know, Martin, you utilize social media to highlight, just the events and the things that are happening in your Aotearoa and the youth and the church, pulenga and community events, on TikTok. You're like TikTok guy, Instagram. It's really cool to see the videos that you put together, or the reels. They're quite fancy schmancy. It's really cool. But I'm like wondering, where do you find the time to do all that on top of the other things that you're doing?
Yeah. So doing video editing, it's actually something I've always wanted to do. Like I've always wanted to do it as a career. I've always wanted to like create content, because the process of creating content for me is like really therapeutic. Like I don't even care if anybody likes it or not. Like it's quite a selfish reason, Rosa. I do it for myself, and I post the stuff up just for me, whether people will like it or not, it doesn't really matter. I like it. And I think for any content creator that's out there, I really want to encourage you, don't second guess your content creation. Post it up because you like it, and if other people like it as well, see that as a bonus, but do it first and foremost because you enjoy it, because that's why I do it. I don't really care if people like it or not, but I love it.
I think it's cool. I think it's really cool because, first of all, it's coming from the whewhiao. like a church leader. So that in itself is quite unique. So I love that. And that's kind of like how when I was researching, when I was researching the both of you, I was watching the videos, trying to get my head around events and things that were going on in terms of the different roles that you play, not just in the church, but as leaders in communities. So no, I was just like, is this guy like, man, how does he have time to, do content? But I get it, like what you're saying, you absolutely have to enjoy it. It should not be a burden, feel like, oh, gotta put this together. Nah, you gotta really enjoy what you're doing. So keep it up. Oh, my question though was, what do the youth think? And church elders, like, do any of them
Oh.
see
A
like?
good one.
Yeah, so every Sunday, like I always prepare a video for the local every Sunday. So for my kalakameki, like instead of doing a kalakameki, I just play a video. Like
Yeah.
and the video is always about whatever the mangaku or go of the laungas. And when I first done it, I was really scared because I thought like the elders would like okay hear me and say like, "Bye, Elias, you know." But they were actually see this is the amazing thing about this church, hey? They're really open to change. And the more open they are, like it just made me want to do other new things during the local as well. And they've allowed it, which is really awesome, man.
Yeah, I think that's great. I actually saw one of the videos as I was going through your profile, like just trying to check out different content you'd done. And I thought that was a great idea because what for me, looking at it from a teacher perspective, I was just like, by doing a video, it reaches not just one particular listener or person watching it, there are many different types of learners, listeners in the audience. So this also can cater for our neurodivergent folks. And so yeah, I just thought this is such a great idea, and it's even more cool to hear that your church is very your community are very open about they're open to change. Because I think sometimes, it's very easy to be stuck in your ways, but it's really encouraging to hear that they're supportive of these new initiatives that you are both bringing to the Ngaluenga. Are you still co-leaders of Passage, of Pacifica Autism Support Group?
So Passage or Pacifica Autism Support Group, the founders are here in Auckland. So the founders' names are Brian and Betty Pulepolau. So they came down to Wellington, and we were sort of in the middle of just getting a diagnosis and looking for a support group. When they came down as part of another kind of autism network group. They were sharing their story. We were there to listen. And we basically just got connected. And here we're asking them for help. And then next minute, they're asking us if we could actually lead the space in Auckland, in Wellington. So that's pretty much how it started. And we were leading that space for a few years. And we've just handed it over to Daniel and Anna Filimoni, as well as Milemo in Wellington last year when we left. So right now, we don't co-lead anything, but we're still very heavily involved in this space because I guess when you've made connections and you've made networks, and for us, it's been quite interesting because we've now come into the South Auckland, like Mangere, Otara space, like there's a need, and the connections that we're now doing is like directly with our Samoan families, like, a lot of the families that we were connected with in Porirua and Wellington, very kind of diverse, majority of the families were ones that actually were ready to find out more information. Like they were ready to sort of semi-accept their child's diagnosis. So that hard yard of already accepting, I guess, and searching for support, it's already been done. Whereas a lot of the families that we're meeting now, they're not even there yet, like there's a diagnosis in place, there's a child that's in need, but right now there's just a lot of that. And we have come across it, like not on purpose. It's through church, it's through word of mouth. We've gone to a school already, we've presented already, and literally these families are, professionals are reaching out And so it's been interesting. Like, it's a space that we didn't plan on getting into here in Auckland, because we knew that we were going to dedicate our whole life to our church family. But God's got different ways. Like, it's serious. Just been
keeps
thrown.
bringing us back into the space.
And so we're definitely still in the space. And it's not by accident. I don't know. So we don't know. It's actually quite a very interesting space coming here in Auckland, in South Auckland. But one of the things is that we've had to engage. We've engaged with some really authentic, like, island parents, and I love it because it's a challenge. Because they're not going to hide anything. They're ruthless. They'll tell you how it is. There's no filter, straight no filter at all. And I was just sharing with our passage, like, friends, and just saying to them, man, like, I love the conversations because they don't hold anything back, but those are the voices that we'll be wanting for a while. So
And so you are parents to Josiah, and I was wondering, in terms of, when you reflect on that first moment, the support that you've received over the years, how have you as parents grown in this space, but also, your son, like, what changes have you seen because you have had access to resources and support?
So Josiah was diagnosed about 2014, 2015, when he was about three and a half. But he was on the wait list for nearly 12 to 14 months. When he went into the wait list, I pretty much resigned. So I was a full-time teacher at the church at Ongamata. Martin was working in MOE, Ministry of Education. And then once he went through that road, I actually resigned full-time, and I pulled him out because I realized I actually didn't even know my son that much. As the teacher, you probably know it's like full-time, but then also, like, there's time after that. You've got meetings, you've got PDs. And I literally used to take my son with me. He'll just sleep wherever, and we'll get home and it's just time for him to go to bed. So I never really got to know all of kind of like the little triggers and things like that he was going through until he came into my over twos class, and I noticed he was just really, really different from all the other children. And I just thought, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a delay. Anyway, the diagnosis came through. We knew we had to make a change. We made the decision that I would actually sort of, put my career on a back foot and then just start working with him and getting to know him. And it's probably the best decision that we made, is that we knew that I would become the person that would be with him. And I felt like once we owned the truth and opened up ourselves and become kind of open-minded towards Josiah's diagnosis. Yeah, trust me, it was hard. There was a lot of emotion around it because we were like, what are we going to do? But like Martin had said, he was our calling at that time for that season. He was our son. And in my mind, I thought we need to start working with him now, because right now he doesn't have any siblings. If we're to die tomorrow, like, we need to try and help prepare him as much as possible while we're around. And so that's how pretty much our journey started with him.
Yeah, I think what you said just then, being open to the truth, or owning the truth and being open-minded, I think that's very powerful, because, I was thinking as you were talking about, the difference work, doing the advocacy work in Wellington and then to Auckland, it made me wonder about how many of our Pacifica parents are actually, are worried about seeking advice, are worried about asking someone that doesn't necessarily look like them, a professional. How many of them are worried or afraid to do that, whether it's lack of the language and understanding, or even just hesitant to, like, step into those spaces?
People are always afraid of the unknown.
Mm.
And when it comes to your child, like, no one wants to hear that there's something wrong with their child. It's just a natural thing as a parent. It's funny because the school that we presented at, there was a mother that was there that went through this exact same thing, But after we presented to her and we told her we told the group about our journey and the things that we went through and the progress that Josiah has made, I think she got to that point of realization that actually I need to be honest with the diagnosis, and I need to just take ownership of it, and taking ownership of it means like I need to start doing things now, I need to start seeking support. I need to start learning about autism, and things that I can do as a parent to support my child. So it was really nice having that experience with that parent, and the teacher shared afterwards that she was one of those parents that was just in denial. She just didn't want to accept it at all. But I mean, I can't blame them because they lack their understanding of what autism is and what they can actually do about it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the language and the terminology when it comes to autism awareness. Do we get a lot of our people asking, "Oh, lalo wingo le upu," or how do we say this in a way that we understand, as Pacifica folks or as Samoan? Like, do we get a lot of those types of inquiries about really understanding the terminology and jargon?
Yeah, so the school that we were at, majority of them were like straight from Samoa, but it was good because
Oh.
Toreka was able to explain everything in Samoa, which is really good.
Like,
Yeah.
like there isn't an actual Samoan term at the moment, but I guess all we can do is try and explain the condition, and so we usually use words like o mo aluma whanau I lato mana o ngā whapitoa. So we sort of try and keep it that. So mana o ngā whapitoa sort of like, I guess if you translate it directly or literally, sort of sounds like special needs kind of thing. And then just sort of explain the characteristics, in the condition around the child, like especially the neurodiverse and stuff like that. So I guess we have to explain it that way in the meantime, because right now the clinicians don't actually have an actual word that translates autism.
And the good thing is that we're able to provide examples of Samoan life, like church life when you have lovers and things like that. That resonates more with them. Trying to manage a child with autism, and yet the mother's trying to see konga. You know what I mean? Like it's just like kind of real life examples, or like going to church and all the mothers are like, oh, and getting those kind of comments in a church setting, that kind of stuff resonates more because those are examples that they probably go through themselves.
Do you get responses like that in terms of in community settings or church settings, in regards to Josiah, and do you hear comments like that, or is it people are more have created spaces where it's safe for him to just be who he is?
I think we were quite fortunate to be in Poriroa under Reverend Nove and Benina, because once we explained the condition to them, they were quite open. So, actually, I'll let you talk about the space. So, Toreka created a space for Josiah in the church, a safe space.
I guess like we knew that church was always going to be part of his life. So we knew that church and family and school were the main things. So for those spaces, we needed to build relationships with the people that controlled those spaces. So for school, had to really have a good relationship with the whaonga and principal. And then for family, obviously it'll be just the aunties and cousins and just letting them know. And then for church, we went straight to the Whewhia Whaletua. They needed to know because they're the leaders of the church. Once they knew, once they understood, and they basically said, bring him to church, bring him to, we then started to make certain calls. So for example, myself, I was still part of the choir, but I would actually say, I will come to practice, but I won't sit with the choir on Sundays because it was really important for me to have my son in the church space. So, and it just started with small steps. I mean, I know in the mainstream world, usually you would go and run a PD or run a workshop for a group of people to explain a certain situation or explain to them what autism or what something looks like, right? For our people, from what we experienced, you just need to show them. You just need to literally show them how it works. And as soon as we had got the augo from our minister and his whaletua that they were all good, like, bring him, aurika whiakama, au mai pea, ili lotu, au mai leanga sa. I went, cool, okay, cool. What does that look like though? And it means that I need to literally follow him around, and I need to hands on hand walk him through his routine so that he understands that Sunday looks like this. You wear white clothes, you go to church, you go into the hall, you have break, he just needs to know that routine. And that also meant that I didn't attend Alfabese as much because I had to commit myself to my child. We'd have the whole front pew to ourselves. He would have a puzzle box, what do you call it? Drawing. A little lunch box with a few snacks and drawing. And he always had to have something kind of like a soft toy because that's what helped regulate his kind of emotions and his triggers. So what started off as like little screams, like long screams, it started to reduce a lot, over time. And this is over years. This is not something that just happened over weeks or days. This was something that developed over years. And our church family watched, they watched me and they watched us. Like Martin will be the main person. Like if he had to do something in church, he would be the one, and I just had to be with him. And I think the day that I finally went back and sat in Alfabese, and I just kept on looking at him, like I remembered one of the ladies came up to me and she just sort of like tapped me on the shoulder and she just said, "Malo, well done. Well done. Over the years, you've been trying to train him, like, to sit on his own, to stay in church, and now you're able to come back to Alfabese, and he actually can now sit by himself." So it's one of those kind of things, and they watch you. They watch you struggle, and because I'm right in the front, I don't really ango to anyone, and you literally need to have thick skin because at the end of the day, I knew what my goal was for Josiah. I knew Josiah was going to grow up in church. This was part of us, and this is part of his life. And so he got masangi to it, just like how he goes to school. But trust me, we've had a lot, like I can share with you, our people, they know what they know, right? And obviously you probably would have heard of a lot of kind of like very negative stigmas and, cultural stigmas. And we've had that said to us. And a very well-respected person in our church came up and basically just said to us, the reason why Josiah is that is because it's the sin of the forefathers kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, and for me, I was actually really grateful. Like, it's funny, I know that...
it was actually the sins of my parents.
Yeah, apparently.
Very specific. Yeah.
She's very specific. She said it was the sins of Martin's parents or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that I actually thanked her for telling me this, and I said, thank you, whakataya mo, mo lofo ima natu. But basically I said to her, mo whānau, mo mea lofa mai lea tua, are blessings. And I told her, I said, he's the biggest blessing of our family. He's helped open up my whole family out. We've learned to be patient. We've learned that every day isn't the same. We've learned to have to think outside the square. We've learned to appreciate the differences, to appreciate the uniqueness of different people and things like that. So he's taught us way more, than anything. So when I shared that with her, she said, yeah, sa'olele mo whānau, mo mea alofa mai lea tua. And so, yeah, it's funny how the conversation totally shifted, but it goes to show that they only know what they know, right?
Yep.
And so when that happened, I said to Martin, we actually just need to keep on showing our people, and just sharing his story. And I think that's why social media played a massive part for us. Like we shared Josiah's journey all the time, everything that happened, good, bad, whatever. Yeah, so I guess that's what it's looked like for us in church, and it's been a blessing. Like now, 10 years later, we've come to Mangere, and he's used to it. Sunday is Sunday. Like he grunts all the time. He's like, "Oh, it's Sunday." Yes, child, it's Sunday. Give up with Sunday school, But he knows, and he knows that when he goes in there, like he doesn't have a device. You know, he knows after the third song, he puts his head up and he's like, finished? And I'm like, my lord, yeah, it's finished. You know? So,
That is, wow, inspirational, sis. Seriously, like just hearing these parts of your journey as a family is really inspiring. And it's these stories, like you said, sharing Josiah's journey through social media. It's these real stories that resonate with people, even if they're not directly connected to, autism or know of anyone. But these are those real stories that we want to champion, and we want people to see, because there's not enough of a spotlight on it. So I absolutely love, hearing just this journey. You're so courageous, both of you. Like, it's really, it's, yeah. Malo lava. Vasifika, Our Autism Journeys. April 2nd, there was the release of that book. Parents and children, were contributors to this book through Mila's books. And how cool was it for your family to be a part of that initiative and getting stories, such important stories, amplifying voices that are not heard? How important was it for you to be a part of this? And yeah,
It was a great opportunity to just because the book it comes from different perspectives. You got different families. Yes, they have children with autism, but all our kids are all different, even though they're all on the spectrum, and all of our situations and our family situations are all different as well. So I mean, our story just came from a Whakiao and Palipua perspective of having a child with autism. So it was just really take my hat off to Dahlia, for having that vision, and just for making this happen. I think this was just
so
about the idea.
So Dahlia, I met Dahlia during one of our sensory movie screenings in Wellington. So Dahlia is obviously a mother to an autistic child too, Mason. Dahlia turns up to our movie, and then so we just start getting, talking, and she's telling me she's an author. I was like, oh, cool, wow. And then she comes to our next event, and now she's sharing about this dream that she has. She goes, my gosh, it'll be amazing. It will be really cool if we can get some parents together, and just share their journeys. I was like, yeah, of course, that'll be awesome. And just these eager as like Pacific women, like mothers, seriously. And then next thing you know, what I think we catch up at another event. It's like, we got to make this happen. She's like, no, and knowing her, she goes 100 miles per hour. She's already like ahead of us. And she's like, cool, all right. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I'll get in touch with Betty from Passage. And before you know it, us three are Zooming each other. And like, I mean, we know nothing how to put a book together. She knows how to do all of that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And so all we had to do was, we were in Wellington at that time, so I had to get contributors from Wellington, and Betty had to get contributors from Auckland. And she was obviously, co-authoring and, the publisher and all that kind of stuff. So she was just organizing everything, telling us the timeline and, when this needs to be done. And, us not understanding what publishers and authors go through, but just sort of like, oh yeah, I'm sure. She's like, come on, guys. But it's been an amazing journey, and honestly, just some 3 overly excited autistic mums to our boys, and just so much ideas and so much excitement about it. And when it finally happened, we were like, didn't we just like plan this a year ago? And I was like, yeah, we did, literally. So yeah, it was something that started, I think, last year, and she goes, we can get it done by April 2023. And I was like, oh, she's crazy. But yeah, it happened.
Congratulations on being a part of that initiative. I know she kept dropping hints and kept saying like something's coming. I'm a huge fan of Dahlia does not play around. That's one thing I know. So I think it's awesome that your family were a part of this and got to share that perspective or that view. When we think about the book and how it's impacting, just its impact on the community, what do you hope, as parents, what do you hope readers can take away from Vasifika, Our Autism Journals?
I think the first thing is hope. You know, we hope that they would find hope in these stories. We hope that the stories would. I mean, it may not be a similar situation, but at least some of the things that we experience in our journey would resonate with them and kind of like give them hope. I think that was the main thing, and just the fact that we're able to share our stories with other people through the medium of this book. It's a privilege.
Your youth, Pulenga youth, are traveling to Samoa for the Whanotele. When do you guys leave? Is it this coming week or?
The Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday. So, how has that preparation been going? I've loved seeing the videos, and how is it all coming together? Or have practices finished now? Or
yeah, so the last practice was tonight. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a journey, yeah. So me and Toreka are obviously quite new to this Pulenga. We know nothing about Pulengas here in Auckland now, and the dynamics of the different churches here in Auckland. But this Pulenga, I mean, they only the Kupulanga only got together for sports, like especially kirikiki and volleyball. So obviously it was very competitive space. So not a lot of, ngofofi alfangi, ngofofi le mo, and that kind of stuff, eh? But this trip has actually been a huge blessing, eh? Like it's amazing, eh? Like I think a few weeks ago we had this bonding night, so we just thought, let's just get a lot of the youth leaders from the different churches to organize an event. So they just organized this event just like 2 weeks ago. And it was amazing. We made it into kind of like a real kind of spiritual event as well as a fun event. And just to get people to share about their dreams and just hearing other youth from different churches share about their aspirations and other ones listening to it. Like it was really powerful, and it really brought them like a lot, closer together. And you can see it when they perform, it's a really Fialafangi Mafgang. And I was thinking, after all these years, they've never done this, until now, which is great.
When you two were coming up in your respective youth groups, were you also involved, in this kind of stuff, a lot of the performing arts, the singing, the music, the dancing and performance side of things? Was there a lot of kupulanga stuff going on like that, or not so much?
Well, for you will be different, eh?
Yeah. I guess before we came into the Mangere space, our role before this down in our old Matanga Luenga is that we were the officer on Girsiano. So we were the officers that looked after. Yeah. So prior to COVID, we were so excited about this role, like so excited. Like it's amazing. And we had planned, I think, not only were we running workshops for Sunday school teachers, and but we were also planning to visit a lot of the different churches, the Pulengas and the youth groups. So we had the plan, and then COVID hit. And suddenly all of our plans in person then became online, and that's pretty much where your videos started, because we still had to release content. And now the content became online, and it's where Martin's first videos started, his video editing started, of us being on social media.
Yeah, we still got our officer Girsiano Facebook page,
and so that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think we were definitely in the space. We were definitely in the space. So we were meeting up with and running youth programs for other churches, but just through the COVID kind of regulation. So it wasn't really to the extreme that we wanted. Like we would have loved to have like a massive
youth conference.
That was the ultimate dream.
Yeah,
it was the dream.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Here in Auckland.
Yeah. So the dream was that after our third year, our final year of it, we were actually going to try and do a youth conference, but then COVID hit, and I was like, there's no way that we'll be able to get more than 10 people.
Well, now you can do it in Auckland, yeah?
Yeah,
you got like more.
We're gonna see revival in our church, with our young people. That's me and Toreka's heart, and we know it's gonna happen. We have faith that it's gonna happen.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's important. Everyone's listening. You heard it here first on the Reads with Rosa podcast. No, you didn't hear it here first. I'm sure I'm sure Rev has talked about it many times, but it's honestly really cool to see, uh, just through watching your own pulenga, just how all it is, and things like people coming together. And it's so funny when you talk about the competitive nature, but now they're able to come through, share the faith and do it spiritually, one purpose, one goal. So I think with God at the center of everything, surely will work out. So, I want to wish you all the pulenga, all the best, your youth groups that are heading over there, all the young people, have fun, behave yourselves. Have
Exactly.
fun, in at Malua, and of course in Samoa. Hopefully I'll catch the performance. I'm leaving this week coming, so I look forward to it. I think I will catch the performances, so I'm looking forward to it. Go hard, South Auckland, Pulenga. Self-care, how do you two look after yourselves despite everything that's going on, and obviously with the Ngaluenga, but also family? Like, how do you take care of yourselves?
Well, me and Toreka, well, we joined this gym. It's called Fit Mums, eh?
Okay.
And like it's an awesome gym, eh? It's a really good gym. And I think especially for Toreka, I'll let you speak because that's your space, eh?
I never used to be into kind of fitness, but ever since coming into the space, I've actually loved it. And when we got here, we were at F45. But I felt like we needed a little bit of more of a challenge, and decided to join Fit Mums, and it's like straight CrossFit. But you know what? I absolutely love it. Like I said to Martin, I need it. When I get into a class, like I try to get to a 5:30 or a 6 o'clock class in the morning, and it really starts my day off really well. But at the same time, sleep is also really important, and I kid you not, because you don't really get much of it. So sometimes I'll be like, sleep or workout. So usually it'll be more like sleep, especially if it's like really, really late nights. But if I get just moving, for me, it's just moving, and I find it really important. And I share that as well. Probably not as open, hard out, because I'm quite aware that it's probably not your norm to have a whale tour literally rocking kind of like, bars and all of those kind of like snatches and stuff.
Do it, sis. You do, you go hard, and it will inspire
so I'm
others.
just mindful, like, I've always been quite a very confident person, but I'm also very mindful of the role too. But I also know that it does give off a really good kind of positive vibe. But for me personally, I love it. If I get the time, I'll go. And it just makes me feel really, really good just to move and just to like start off my day really well. And I love doing something that isn't the norm. I know that, so.
But I just want to say, Rosa, I'm very proud of my wife because of this. Say, as she said right in the beginning of the interview, our aim was just to be ourselves, to be our authentic selves. And this is Toreka's authentic self. And I know there were some other whalikos that were kind of like laughing and mocking her for going to like Fit Mum and Fit Com, Samoa, how they just
it's not your norm.
Because it's not your norm, because I don't know any other whaliko that does Fit Mums or that does CrossFit kind of training, But for me, it's like if you're gonna be a leader, you got to lead in all areas of your life, especially your, looking after your health and well-being, coming here to South Auckland and seeing all this cheap, very unhealthy food, it's like, wow, we need to lead. We need to lead by example, especially being the Auckland. We want to be able to say, you know what, it's normal to look after your health and well-being. It's normal to go to the gym. It's normal to work out. We want to normalize that kind of stuff.
So health, I think health and well-being is really important. Like, it's really important, and it's really important for us as well, as a couple, as a family. I think probably the only thing that we sort of miss out sometimes is that our son is growing. What he used to like to do is not so cool anymore. So it's like just trying to connect with him on a different level. He's growing up to become a preteen. But I think health and well-being is really important, and I think it just helps us mentally and spiritually too.
And Martin, how are you coping with the, with the gym training, and how are you hanging? Are you hanging in there?
Kind of just by a thread, but yeah, almost.
My Sharp, my little book recommendations. We're beginning to wrap up now. Book recommendations. Anything you want to throw out there? Maybe something that you've read or has been recommended to you that you want to share with our audience.
I think basically like
R.L. Stein.
No, I think the
Oui.
book recommendation I would want to plug right now is the Vasafika.
Yes.
To be honest, I think that's probably the most
Yes.
important one for us. It's so close to our hearts. But
Mm.
once you see it, not only is the book, it's got beautiful colors, and the stories are amazing in there. That's probably my plug for anyone to read, is to read that if you want to know what it may be to walk in someone's journey, autism journey, for Pacifica families, whatever culture, nana, auntie, the siblings, the autistic person themselves. I think that's the best book for you to read. Yeah, and it's one of a kind.
Yeah, for those who are watching or listening, Vasafika Autism Journeys, check the bio of the YouTube video. I will post some links in there. You'll be able to connect with Rev and Toreka. If they allow me, I'll post their social media accounts there for you to get in touch if you would like to know more about autism awareness. Definitely through a Pacifica lens. Check the bio. Support Pacifica authors. Support our autism families. Our families and their journeys. So support by buying the book, or at least just sharing it through your social media accounts. Sharing it goes a long way. So we've reached. Oh, sorry, Rev. Did you have a book recommendation, or are you with Toreka on that one?
Oh, just apart from the Bible. No,
Sorry, I don't mean to cut
probably,
you off. I nearly forgot you there. Sorry, Rev, go ahead.
just probably Naruto Shippuden. It's probably my book.
Naruto fan right here. So yes, check the bio for those those links. Now, we've reached the end of our show, and I feel like I always ever prepare. I had so many questions to ask, but I feel like I didn't need to ask all of them. There have been so many takeaways, important educational takeaways from our Talanoa today. First of all, thank you, Rev and Sis Toreka or Faletuia Toreka. I appreciate you both giving up your time. It's been a very long day for you both. Just it means a lot. Thank you for sharing space. All the best as you head to the Whanotele. All the best to your children, to all the youth, Pulenga. Go hard, represent Efakasa for life. That's what's up. You know how it is. But yeah, I think that your story, Josiah's story, and many stories from our other Pacifica families, so important. We need to champion these experiences and these journeys that are not getting that exposure and spotlight. So I want to wish you all the best for the remainder of the year. Mangere sifo, keep on, and man, it's just been such an honor to have you here. So I'll just, hand it over to you to kind of wrap up the show with perhaps some final words of encouragement or some final gems.
Just a quick shout out to Room 20. You know who you are. Anyway, I just want to say, Rosa, you're doing an amazing job with this podcast, and I really want to encourage you. Like I said before, it's not easy doing what you're doing to put yourself out there, but I just pray that God will continue to bless you. I see this as your ministry. You are reaching people that a lot of people else can't even reach. You're giving people a voice that probably didn't even have a voice. You're giving them a platform. And that's an amazing thing, Rosa. So don't ever doubt yourself. Always back yourself up. Because you're doing an amazing job, and this is an awesome podcast. So yeah, God bless you, Rosa.
Thank you, fam.
Pretty much just what Martin said, but I think something to take away, or what I've taken away from the journey of the autism journey that we've had, especially as Pasifika people, is that our difference or the differences that's what makes us unique. And I think just own it, you know what I mean? Be true to who you are. And I think just be yourself, be confident who you are. And that's what makes us Pasifika people beautiful, eh? And I don't think we need to conform to anything else, but just be who we are, you know. And I think that's something that we've had to learn from Josiah. Josiah's taught us. Josiah's confident. He's a confident young person, and he's different, definitely very different, but that's what makes him unique. And and I think that's probably a takeaway for me as a mum and as someone that's just trying to navigate through the ministry as a whare as well.